You wouldn't believe what happened when my daughter looked me in the eye on the biggest day of her life and called me a failure in front of everyone who ever doubted me, as if the years I gave her meant nothing at all. Before I share what happened next, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. The morning of her graduation started the way most of my mornings had for the last 18 years, quietly, carefully, and with a knot of worry sitting just under my ribs. The coffee maker gurgled in the kitchen like an old man clearing his throat. The smell of burnt toast hung in the air because I was distracted scrolling through my phone, checking my bank balance for the third time that week. Rent was due in 2 days. My paycheck from the clinic hit on Friday. The numbers barely lined up, but somehow they always did. They always had. I stood at the sink, staring out the window at the small patch of grass that passed for a yard in our rental duplex, and told myself to breathe. Today wasn't about money. Today was about my daughter, Emily, 18 years old, honor student, first in our family to wear a cap and gown. I should have felt proud. And I did. God, I did. But pride sat tangled up with something darker these days. Distance. Sharp words. Long silences that felt like they buzzed in the air after she left a room. She came into the kitchen already dressed, the blue graduation gown draped over her arm, her hair perfectly straightened, makeup done in that soft, glowing way I used to watch her practice in the bathroom mirror. "Mom, did you move my cords?" she asked without looking at me. "No, honey. I didn't go in your room." She exhaled hard, the kind of sigh that lands like a judgment. "Of course." I pretended not to hear the edge in her voice. I'd gotten used to that sound over the last year. Senior year had changed her. Or maybe it had just revealed parts of her I wasn't ready to see yet. "I packed your favorite breakfast burrito," I said, nodding at the foil-wrapped bundle on the counter. "You barely ate yesterday." She looked at it like it was a chore. "I'll grab something at school. Mrs. Carter's doing Starbucks for the seniors." Mrs. Carter. One of the many moms with perfect nails, luxury SUVs, and a way of speaking to me like I was invisible during PTA meetings. "Okay," I said softly. She left without saying thank you. The front door clicked shut. The house felt instantly quieter, like it always did after she left. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes for a second, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the faint wail of a siren somewhere far off on the highway. Flashback memories came uninvited, the way they always did when things felt fragile. Emily at 6 years old, clutching my leg on her first day of school. Emily at 10, crying because kids teased her about our old car. Emily at 13, furious when I picked her up late from practice because my shift ran long. I had always shown up, in the ways I could. By noon, I was dressed in the only navy blue dress I owned that still fit properly. I brushed my hair carefully, dabbed on a little lipstick, and checked my reflection. I looked tired. But I also looked steady. I picked up the card I'd bought her weeks ago. The one with a simple gold "congratulations" on the front. Inside was a long handwritten note she probably wouldn't read, along with something else I hadn't told anyone about yet. Tucked into my purse. An envelope. I arrived at the high school gym early, the way I always did to everything. The seats were already filling with families in pressed outfits and excited chatter. The sound inside the gym buzzed like 100 overlapping conversations wrapped in anticipation. Parents hugged. Phones were raised. Flash bulbs popped. I found a seat halfway up the bleachers and smoothed my dress over my knees. As I waited, I watched other families reunite. Fathers in crisp suits. Mothers with designer handbags slung over their shoulders. Siblings carrying balloons and roses. Then I saw him. Mark. My ex-husband. He walked in like he owned the place, sunglasses still perched on his head, his new wife beside him. She was young. Younger than me by at least 15 years. Perfect blonde hair. White sundress. The kind of woman who always looked freshly ironed. They took seats a few rows below me. He hadn't helped raise Emily since she was 9. After the divorce, his financial support had been inconsistent at best. Some months, nothing at all. Other months, small transfers with passive-aggressive notes like, "Hope this helps since you won't let me see her." And yet, there he was. Front row confidence. like history had rewritten itself for his convenience. The gym lights dimmed. The marching band began to play. The graduates lined up in their blue gowns. The crowd erupted into cheers that felt like thunder rolling through concrete walls. My heart searched for her face among the sea of caps. Then I saw her. Emily walked with her chin high, eyes scanning the bleachers. When her gaze found mine, it didn't soften. It passed over me like I was just another face in the crowd. But when she spotted her father, her smile bloomed instantly. It stung. I won't lie. The ceremony moved slowly, name after name echoing through the gym. The air smelled like perfume, deodorant, and nervous sweat. I clapped until my palms warmed for kids I barely knew. For dreams just starting. Then they called her name. Emily Carter. She crossed the stage with perfect posture, accepted her diploma, turned toward the audience. Our eyes met briefly. Her gaze slid past me again and landed where her father stood cheering the loudest. That night, after the ceremony, families gathered outside under strings of white lights hung across the parking lot. Photos were taken. Laughter spilled into the summer air. Someone nearby popped a bottle of sparkling cider. The smell of pizza drifted from boxes stacked along the sidewalk. I waited near the edge of the crowd, clutching my small bouquet of grocery store roses. Emily finally walked over with her friends trailing behind her like a glittering entourage. "Congrats, girl," one of them said to her. Then they glanced at me politely. "Hi." "Hi," I said, smiling. Emily accepted the flowers without meeting my eyes. "Thanks." Her father appeared at her side almost immediately, arm wrapping around her shoulders like he'd never left. "That was my girl up there," he said loudly. "Top of her class." She beamed at him. Then she turned to me. And in a voice just loud enough for the people closest to hear, she said, "Well, I guess she taught me what not to become." Everyone went quiet. A strange buzzing filled my ears. I wasn't sure I'd heard her right at first. "What?" I asked gently. She folded her arms, eyes glossy but hard. I said, "I guess you're a good example of what happens when you settle for nothing. I'm not trying to end up like you. Struggling. Depending on everyone else. Always behind." The words landed like glass in my chest. Her friends stared at the ground. Her father didn't correct her. If anything, he looked satisfied. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake all the years back into her memory. But I didn't do any of that. I just nodded once. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "You earned today." And I walked away. Behind me, laughter resumed awkwardly. Someone cleared their throat. The tension dissolved into celebration again, but I carried the weight of her words like a stone in my purse. That night, in my small bedroom with the hum of traffic outside the window and the flicker of the porch light sliding across the wall, I sat on the edge of my bed and finally took out the envelope I'd brought to her graduation. Inside was the truth. The one I'd never planned to weaponize. Until she called me a failure. I didn't open the envelope that night. I placed it back inside my purse like it was something dangerous, something that could change the air in the room if I let it out. The house was quiet when I got home. Too quiet. Emily hadn't come back yet. Mark must have whisked her off for some celebratory dinner at a restaurant I could never afford, one with cloth napkins and menus without prices. I sat at the small kitchen table under the tired yellow light and stared at a cold cup of tea I didn't remember making. My hands were steady, but my chest ached in slow, rolling waves. Her words kept replaying in my head, soft but sharp. Settled for nothing. Always behind. I thought about all the nights I had stayed awake at this same table, folding medical forms for the clinic while she slept, trying to stretch a paycheck that never quite wanted to stretch. I thought about the years I spent saying no to myself so she could say yes to everything. I texted her once. "Me, you okay? Let me know when you're on your way home." No reply. Around midnight, the front door finally opened. I heard her footsteps in the hallway. The faint sound of her kicking off her shoes. The zipper of her gown sliding down. She never came into the kitchen. The next morning, the silence hung between us like fog. I fried eggs. She made toast. The smell of butter filled the air, familiar and heavy. She didn't look at me once. "I'm going out later," she said flatly. Dad's friend set me up with an internship interview next week. Real company. Not some clinic. I felt the dig land, but I swallowed it. That's great, I said. I'm proud of you. She scoffed. You don't even know what proud looks like. She left again without eating the eggs. Later that day, I went to work like everything was normal. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and fresh coffee. A radio played quietly at the nurse's station. Patients complained about wait times. Life moved on in its relentless, ordinary way. But inside me, something had shifted. For years, I had protected Emily from the worst of our reality. From Mark's broken promises. From the arguments about money. From how deeply his disappearance had fractured us both. I had told myself that if she succeeded, the sacrifice would be worth it. Now I wasn't so sure she knew what she'd been standing on. 3 days passed. Emily barely spoke to me. When she did, it was transactional. Can you wash my white dress? I need gas money. Don't touch my laptop. That Thursday, Mark showed up unannounced. I was rinsing dishes when I heard his knock. Sharp. Confident. Like he still had rights to my doorway. I opened the door halfway. What do you want? He smiled, that same charming smile that used to undo me years ago. Just checking on my graduate. Is she home? No. He leaned against the door frame anyway. She's upset with you. I crossed my arms. She humiliated me in public. He shrugged. Kids speak the truth sometimes. You should try listening instead of playing the victim. That old familiar heat rose in my throat. You didn't raise her. You don't get to critique how I handled it. I still paid child support, he said sharply. I almost laughed. Almost. You vanished for months at a time. You paid when you felt guilty. Don't rewrite history now. His jaw tightened. You're always bitter. And you're always absent until it benefits you, I replied. He stepped closer. Emily's moving in with me for the summer. The words hit harder than I expected. What? She needs space from your energy. My wife, and I can give her opportunities you never could. For a moment, the kitchen went completely silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. I thought about all the nights Emily had slept with a fever while I sat beside her with cold cloths because I was terrified of hospital bills. About the time she needed braces and I sold my old jewelry to pay the down payment. But I said nothing. If that's what she wants, I said calmly, she's an adult now. He smirked, satisfied. See? That's the problem. You stopped fighting. That night, Emily packed. She moved through the house methodically, pride stiff in her shoulders. I helped her fold clothes, hands steady, my face unreadable. You don't have to be dramatic about this, she said. It's just a few weeks. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being your mother. She rolled her eyes. You wouldn't understand. No, I agreed. You wouldn't understand what I understand yet. She paused. Looked at me sharply. What does that even mean? It means, I said softly, I hope you never have to learn the things I did. She left before sunrise the next morning. The house echoed after she was gone. Every room felt too big, too quiet. For the first time in 18 years, I was alone. That weekend, I finally opened the envelope. Inside were copies of tuition payments, receipts, loan documents, bank transfers, all in my name. Emily believed her father had paid for her private prep school, her SAT tutor, her college application coaching. That's what he'd told her. But he hadn't. I had taken an extra night shift every week for 3 years. I had drained my tiny inheritance from my father. I had taken a second student loan at 42 under my own credit because I didn't want her starting life buried in debt. Her scholarships covered part of it. But the rest? That had been me. Invisible. Quiet. Behind the scenes. I folded the papers neatly and slipped them back into the envelope. Then I waited. Because truth, when revealed at the right moment, doesn't explode. It echoes. The first week without Emily felt unreal. The house didn't sound the same. No late-night showers humming through the pipes. No TikTok audio leaking from under her bedroom door. No sudden bursts of laughter followed by slammed silence. Just the tick of the wall clock, the low groan of the air conditioner, and the steady reminder of space where my daughter used to be. Mark posted photos of her almost immediately. Emily by the pool. Emily at some rooftop restaurant. Emily wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than my car payment. The comments underneath were full of praise for him. Proud dad moment. You did good, man. She's lucky to have such supportive parents. Parents. Plural. I never commented. Never reacted. I just watched. On the 9th day, Emily finally texted me. Emily, Dad says you're mad at me. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Me, I'm not mad. I'm hurt. Those aren't the same. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Emily, he thinks you're trying to guilt me. My throat tightened. Me, I'm trying to give you space to grow. She didn't respond. That weekend, I ran into Mrs. Carter at the grocery store. She was picking out strawberries with manicured precision. I saw Emily's photos, she said lightly. Your ex's place looks impressive. I smiled politely. It's nice that he finally has room for her. She tilted her head. Well, with all the private tutoring and prep academies she attended, she was bound to land on her feet somewhere. Bound to, I repeated. That night, something inside me hardened. Not into bitterness, but into resolve. For years, I had swallowed truth in the name of peace. I had let Mark rewrite the version of himself he gave to our daughter. I had let him be the hero because I didn't want to poison her view of her father. But now the story he told had begun to shape how she saw me. And I could no longer afford to stay invisible inside my own life. On Monday, an unexpected email landed in my inbox. Subject: Tuition Records Request, Carter's Student ID 44719. It was from the university's financial office. A routine verification audit. They needed confirmation of the primary payer attached to Emily's account. My name, my social security number, my old clinic address were all attached. I felt my heart slow. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't manipulation. This was just documentation. I replied with everything they requested. That afternoon, Mark called for the first time in years. I don't understand this, he snapped without greeting. The school says you're listed as the primary payer. I leaned back against my kitchen counter. The faucet dripped steadily. That's because I am. Silence. Then a short, stunned laugh from his end. That's funny. It's not a joke, Mark. You're telling me you paid for her prep school too? Yes. And the college consultant? Yes. The SAT program? Yes. His voice dropped. Why would you let me take the credit? I didn't let you, I said softly. You took it. Another silence. Then anger. You should have corrected her. And you should have corrected yourself. He hung up. 2 nights later, Emily called. Her voice was tight. Controlled. Did you really pay for everything? I said nothing for a moment. The weight of 18 years pressed behind my ribs. I paid for what I could. When I couldn't, I found a way. Dad said. I know what he said. Her breath was uneven on the line. He says you're doing this now to make him look bad. I'm not doing anything now, I replied. The bills didn't suddenly appear because I got hurt. They existed the whole time. Her voice broke slightly. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I didn't want you thinking your success came with a price tag attached to your conscience, I said. I wanted you focused on becoming who you wanted to be, not who felt indebted. She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, I thought you were just surviving. I didn't know you were sacrificing. That's the problem, I replied gently. Sacrifice looks quiet from the outside. The next day, Mark posted a long rant online about ungrateful people trying to rewrite history. People reacted differently this time. Some questioned. Some asked for proof. Some remembered old stories he told that didn't quite add up. Emily stopped appearing in his photos. 3 days later, she came back to the house. I was folding laundry when I heard the door open. Her footsteps were slower this time. Hesitant. Mom? I stepped into the hallway. She stood there with a backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes bare without makeup, face stripped of the performance she'd been wearing all summer. I didn't know who else to come to, she said. I didn't rush her. Didn't open my arms immediately. What did you find out? I asked. Her lip trembled. That I built my confidence on borrowed lies. I watched her process the truth in real time. The anger. The confusion. The grief. I told my friends you didn't believe in me, she whispered. I told them Dad paid for everything because you couldn't. My chest tightened, but my voice stayed calm. And now? She swallowed. Now I don't know how to undo the things I said about you. You don't undo them, I said. You grow past them. She set her bag down. I don't want to stay with him anymore, she said. Not until I understand what's real. We stood facing each other, surrounded by the quiet of a home that had once echoed with conflict. And for the first time since her graduation, she looked at me. Not as a background character in her story, but as the foundation she'd been standing on all along. Emily stayed with me that night. She didn't ask. She just came home, dropped her bag by the front door like she had hundreds of times before, and curled up on the couch in the same oversized hoodie she used to borrow when she was 13. I made us tea. She didn't say much, and I didn't push her. Some things need silence to settle. At one point, I walked past her and noticed her eyes were red, not swollen with fresh tears, just tender. Like she'd been holding something in for a long time and was finally too tired to keep it up. The TV played some background sitcom neither of us was really watching. The laugh track sounded out of place. Mom, she said softly, her voice barely above the sound of the commercial break. Yeah. Was I always like that? I looked over. Like what? She stared down at the blanket twisted in her lap. Ungrateful. Harsh. Distant. I sat down beside her. You were trying to figure yourself out. It's not easy. Especially with people telling you different versions of the same story. She looked at me then. Really looked. I said some awful things to you. Yes. Her voice cracked. I don't know how to undo them. I reached out and took her hand, small, warm, trembling a little. You can't undo words, honey, I said. But you can start choosing different ones. She nodded, swallowed, and whispered, I want to. The next morning, she made breakfast. Just eggs and toast, but I hadn't seen her touch a frying pan since she was 14. She stood awkwardly at the stove, flipping eggs too early, laughing when one broke in the pan. I watched her, pretending to read the newspaper I hadn't subscribed to in 2 years. She set the plate in front of me like a peace offering. Don't expect miracles, she said. I'm still learning. I always knew you would, I said. That afternoon, she asked to see the envelope. We sat at the kitchen table, the one with scratches from her middle school science project and the faded crayon marks from a time she barely remembered, and I handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Her hands shook. Page after page. Loan documents. Tuition receipts. Schedules from my second job. Screenshots of wire transfers. Silence hung over us like mist. Finally, she looked up. You never told me because you didn't want me to feel like I owed you. I nodded. I just wanted you to feel free, I said. Her lip quivered. But I do owe you. No, I said. You don't. I did what mothers do. I loved you. Even when it wasn't easy. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I didn't love you back the way I should have. I reached across the table and touched her face. That's the thing about parenting. You don't always get the return when you expect it. But you love anyway. She broke. Quietly. Fully. Like a dam giving way to water that had waited too long to move. We didn't talk much that day. We didn't have to. The next week, she withdrew from her summer internship with Mark's connections. Instead, she took a job at the local library, part-time, nothing glamorous, but honest. She started helping around the house again. Little things. Dishes. Taking the trash out. Sitting with me while I folded laundry, asking about my day like it mattered now. One evening, we watched an old movie together. Something we used to do when she was little. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in years, I let myself cry without hiding it. It wasn't the pain that made me cry. It was the healing. She asked if she could take over the payments on one of the loans I'd taken out for her. I said no. She asked again. This time, she didn't frame it like a debt. She said, let me stand next to you for once. So I let her. Not because I needed help, but because she needed to learn the weight of love carried in silence. Months passed. She applied to college again, this time to a different school, one closer to home, one that didn't feel like it was wrapped in her father's illusion of prestige. She wrote her new admissions essay about sacrifice. She didn't mention names, but I saw my reflection in every line. The opening sentence read, "I thought I built my life on success, but it turns out I built it on someone's quiet resilience, and I never said thank you." She didn't need to. She was already saying it in every action. Mark reached out a few times after that. Angry, confused, accusing me of poisoning her. I didn't engage. I didn't have to. Truth had already done what truth does best when left alone. Rise. And Emily? She became a woman I respected. Not because she apologized, but because she learned. And she taught me too. That even the deepest wounds can bloom into strength if you give them room, and that sometimes the softest revenge is letting someone grow up and see you clearly, without shame, without anger, just, finally. She called me a failure on the most important day of her life. But the next chapter? She wrote it with my name quietly stitched into every page. Not in guilt, but in gratitude.